You could be doing anything else right now. You could be re-drilling your bowling ball, or you could be just looking for lunch. But no, you've chosen to be right here with us, Meredith Elliott Powell, and myself, Mark Hunter. Welcome to Sales Logic Podcast. Okay, Meredith, how was that for a made-up opening at the last second?
I think that was a pretty good opening. You know, this is sort of a interesting week as we just come off the 4th of July, so it's a little shorter week for all of us. And but it seems like a lot of business is booming. What do you have on the table, Mark?
It is booming. What do you mean by shorter week? Excuse me, I was working Monday. I think you were working Monday. This is not a shorter week. Maybe some people have got time off, but not me. I mean, yeah.
Well, starting Friday afternoon, my emails did slow down.
Oh yeah, mine certainly did too. But this is what's funny. I was talking this morning with a person in the UK, and we're trying to get time on the calendar. I said, well, I normally start the day by about 5 a.m. And she like, what? I said, well, yeah. So if you want to say, 6 o'clock for me here is noon for her in the UK. And so insane. I said, yeah, I know I'm insane, but and right after that, I got a call with somebody in Austria. So, I mean, hey, there's business out there, right? A lot of business out there.
Yeah. That's it. That's exactly. It's one of the nice things about this is that there's a lot of global opportunity, and as the world seems to tick all over the place with the COVID numbers, we're still talking about the ways and the things that you can do to actually generate business in this crazy, uncertain time.
Hey, speaking of crazy conversations, I spoke to a guy about an hour ago in Edmonton, Alberta. He moved there from South Africa. Go figure.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a big
That's not a lot.
I'm wondering if I'm freezing up on you.
I think freezing. We had to.
Yeah, we keep well, we keep losing, Mark. That is life and internet in Omaha, I guess. We're going to hope that he pops back here in a second. Mark, are you still with us?
I am still with you, but just take over. I mean, hey, all the time anyway, right?
Well, I'll have to say our internet's a little stronger down here in North Carolina.
Oh, that was a cheap shot. Man, that was a cheap shot. Oh, boy. So now, hey, North Carolina is a great place. I don't know, it's funny because I have spent buku hours and time and people beefing up the Wi-Fi. So I'm not sure why this is happening today. Can we go on?
Yeah, sure. That sounds great.
Man, this is a rough episode if this continues to happen. I feel bad for this. Hey, you know what? Why don't we jump into the episode? Because probably the best way to get the show going, right?
When we prospect with integrity, we will get customers who have integrity. Integrity is the foundation from which everything is built on.
You better understand value. But at the end of the day, sales is a relationship business. It is a people business. It is an emotional business.
Who has made a prospecting call today?
This is Sales Logic.
Most people refer to VanillaSoft as the solution. It's the solution to ensure sales reps make the right number of attempts for every lead across all channels, including email, social, and the phone. It's the solution to serve the rep the next best lead every single time. You need to get your solution at VanillaSoft.com.
All right, here we go. Welcome to A Sales Logic, the show where we dive into the strategies, we talk about the steps, we give you everything that you need to know to well sell logically in today's uncertain marketplace. I'm Meredith Elliott Powell, and I'm here with my co-host,
Mark Hunter, the Sales Hunter. It's great to see you again. We got a good show. We got a great show planned.
We do. We're talking about some hot topics and some good things on the agenda. Before we dive in, though, I want to remind all of our listeners how this show works. We always start off with our question of the day that comes from one of you, our listeners. We always invite you to send us a question either at saleslogicpodcast.com or just put it out there on the social networking sites, #Sales Logic, and we will find it, and you just might be featured here on this show. Second part of the show is we dive into the topic and we finish up with a lightning round, because what we want you to get the most from this show is return on investment of your time. So we give you some key takeaways, some things that you can implement immediately to sell more logically, effectively, and increase your bottom line. So Mark, why don't you kick us off today and talk a little bit about what we have going?
Well, we got a great show. In fact, it could go pretty quick if my internet continues to freeze up. But hey, you know what? You're capable of dancing really well by yourself. Anyway, but hey, here's the topic we're going to be digging into. The topic we're going to be talking about is everybody talks about, hey, how do you have a perfect client? How do you have that perfect customer? We're going to say, how do you find them? Where do you find them? Which really is kind of out of the question that we got here. The question came from Peter in Atlanta. Let me read you the question. I have leads I've been working since before COVID and still nothing. When do I walk away from them and move on? Hey, believe me, we've all got leads that are hanging out there. Not just before. This isn't just due to COVID, but I think it got accelerated from COVID. When should we walk away from a lead? When should we walk away from what might be an opportunity?
You know, I think this is a challenging question, because I don't necessarily think it's about walking away, but it's about learning to prioritize your time. So I personally divide my leads into A, B's, and C's. And my A's, I mean, not terribly innovative, right? But my A's are my really hot prospects. And what I mean by a hot prospect doesn't even mean that they're ready to buy just now. It can mean as much as the fact that they're really good fit and the need is really high. A B is a lead that I'm still working. They haven't necessarily indicated that they're ready to buy. And a C is either a lead that's gone incredibly cold or has shown disinterest. But if a prospect I still really think is a good fit for me, and I haven't gotten any high indicators as to why I should walk away, I'll leave them on there as a C. And the reason I don't mind is because C's are not a big investment of my time or resources. I might send them a copy of my newsletter just to stay visible. I might drop them something around the New Year holiday and check in somewhere around midsummer with them. And my goal is to turn a C into a B or an A. So I answer that just a little bit differently. I think it's more about when do you stop investing a lot of time, energy, and resources on them. But what do you think, Mark?
Well, I think it's so true. It is about knowing when to invest and when not to invest. And the two things that actually, there's three criteria. One, how close do they fit to my ICP, my ideal customer profile? We'll be talking about that in the topic. Two, how big of an opportunity is it? And three, is it connected to something else I'm already doing? In other words, is it a spin-off from something I've got already? Is it an easy fit? So I'm going to use those three criteria, because if it's somebody who really fits in my ideal customer profile, I may not be having any kind of response from them. They're not going away. I'm going to stay focused on them, and I'm going to I may not drip on them as much, but I'm still going to drip on them. Flip side is somebody who I've been, really trying to get a hold of, but they're not really in the ICP. After 6 months, after 4 months, they're gone. But I basically keep them in a cycle, and my cycle kind of works about a 6-week cycle. I'll work on you for 6 weeks. You don't move. I'll throw you out. Unless you fit that ICP, unless you fit that big opportunity, then you're going to stay there.
Yeah. The reason I think this is so challenging is because one of the biggest mistakes I know that I see salespeople make is they spend so much time and energy trying to close a deal that either isn't going to close, or if it does close, it's going to be such a pain that you're going to wish it didn't close. And so I think it's, in all honesty, to answer your question really well, it's that you need to do a little bit of introspection, and you need to think about yourself and ask, is this a good use of my time? What's the likelihood that this is going to close? And if it does close, is this person match my value system? Years ago, when I used to train my own sales team, we used to use a grid. And Mark talked about your ICP, your ideal client profile. And at the top of that grid, we would have all the characteristics of the ideal client profile. The industry they worked in, basically their ability to make a decision, what their geographic region was, how high and urgent their need was. And we would, down the side, we would put our prospects. And depending on, they had to meet 5 or more of those ICP criteria for us to continue forward with them. And using that grid was just a great way to objectively look at people. Because I think one of the things we have as salespeople is we get so turned on by the chase, right? I mean, part of it is, I just want to get this person to close. But you've got to have a way or a tool to step back and really ask yourself, is this the highest and best use of my time? Because as salespeople, we have to remember, saying yes to one prospect is saying no to others.
That is so spot on, because you can chase somebody that isn't worth chasing. I mean, this is like the dog that's chasing the car. This is what I feel so many salespeople are. They're just a dog chasing the car. Even if you caught it, what would you do with it? Nothing. It's not worth it. I use the line, you can't take a Walmart shopper and make them a Nordstrom customer.
Right.
You were talking about the ICP, and the 5 criteria. I always, whenever I'm working with clients, we'll build out the ICP, and we may have anywhere from 3 to 15 criteria. And what I kind of say is, if this prospect doesn't line up at least 70% of the way there of an ICP, you better have a really good reason as to why you're spending time with them. Because otherwise, all you're doing is just wasting time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Mark, that takes us really great into the topic for today. So why don't you tell us what's on the table with the topic, and let's dive in.
Well, the topic is, everyone talks about having a perfect customer, having perfect customers. What's the process to create them? And that's an interesting question. That's an interesting question right there, because do you create a perfect customer, or do you find a perfect customer? I'm going to throw that onto your plate. Answer that.
Okay, it's sort of like a chicken or an egg, right? I honestly think I really think it's a little bit of a combination of both. It sort of reminds me of dating. I always found the perfect guy, but I had to fix him up just a little bit to get him right over the edge. But it's kind of that way with a customer. I mean, customers are perfect in the sense that they are enthusiastic. They're interested, they listen, they want to buy, they really believe that your product can make a difference, for them. At the same time, part of your role as a sales professional is to educate them as to the possibilities beyond what they're thinking, that ensures that relationship goes deep and wide, so they become the perfect customer. I also think you need to define for you what perfect customer is. I mean, what's the depth of relationship that you're looking for? Are you looking for referrals beyond that? Are you looking for somebody? I've got clients that, we sell really big, heavy equipment. We're not looking necessarily for a lot of repeat business, because it just doesn't lend itself to that. You buy a piece of equipment, it's probably going to last 15 to 20 years, versus I have other clients that, the product is only good for a year. So we want that engagement to be, returned. So you need to define it, identify people that fit the ideal a client profile and then educate them as to what perfection could be for both of you.
You know, it's interesting because I had to ask you that do you create a perfect customer or do you find a perfect customer? And I love asking salespeople and sales managers that question. And you know what's funny? So many times they say, well, we find them. And I'm glad you said that. No, you develop them. Because if all you do is find them, all you're doing is customer service. That's all you're doing.
Exactly
sales is incremental. So I want to have an ICP and how many ever criteria we have, the persona of who that perfect customer is. And I'm going to start building that. The first piece I'm going to ask myself is, can I deliver an outcome that they're looking for? And I get that by looking at my current customers. This other potential, if they don't line up to begin with, I don't even want to go down that path because, it's too easy again for us just because, you look like a perfect customer. Doesn't mean you're going to act like a perfect customer. Doesn't mean your needs are going to be the same. So you do have to be really tight. I could pick up on your comment, real lousy guy. Yeah.
Well, and vice versa. I mean, I don't think it's clients' responsibility to know how to be perfect. I mean, let's go back to, dating or marriage or just being in a relationship with anybody. I mean, you sort of have to learn how to adjust to be right for one another. Well, customers, I'm so passionate about that. It's not their responsibility to understand our products and services and how our products and services can benefit their life. So for you may say that a perfect customer is somebody I have a really strong relationship with. They have a number of our products or services. They always come to me first to ask questions. They refer me business. Well, if you're not developing and cultivating that in them, that'll never happen, no matter how shiny a suit they have when they show up at the door, because they don't understand how to utilize you until you as a sales professional help them understand how to do that. And that's our job and the value we bring to the table.
Which brings up a good point, because ideal customers are not ones that you're lazy with. Ideal customers are not, they're an ideal customer because they don't require much work. You really got to stop and ask yourself, are they really an ideal customer? Are you creating incremental opportunities with them? Are you finding ways to help them in ways that they didn't realize? When I hear people say, oh, I've got perfect customers. They never ask anything. They just place their orders. I go, hey, all you've got is an annuity that's going to go away eventually. You better find a way to nurture it. So, perfect customers is something that's continually evolving. And I'll argue right now in this COVID environment, there's changes you have to make to your criteria for an ideal customer profile. Yeah, I'm not all about changing everything, but you have to be prepared to say that maybe there's some criteria in your ICP that you had before COVID that maybe is not as important as it is right now. And maybe there's other things
Yeah. One of the biggest things I think, especially is because so many sales professionals now we're selling online. I know one of the biggest criteria we had for Ideal was that we could reach them physically within our geographic region. That right there has changed so much. I mean, you have so much more opportunity to engage with people beyond. The other is that the urgent needs of my ideal customers, my perfect customer before COVID, and now those are very, very different because their needs have changed. The products and services that I deliver, even if they haven't exactly changed from a physical standpoint, they've changed in the value that they bring and how I position them in the marketplace. So I think you make a really great point around that.
That whole talk about geography has come up in several conversations I've been having with the companies, because they say, okay, in this COVID world, there is no geographical boundaries because, like we're doing, we can touch base with anybody anywhere in the world. And then they sit there and say, yeah, but COVID's going to end eventually and we will be back to our old ways. Yes, but don't think for a moment that geographic boundaries are going to come back into play 100% because they're not. So you better be prepared to say, hey, how do I continue to operate in this COVID world long term?
Yeah. I think the geographic boundaries are only going to come back if you want them to come back. I mean, I think that first of all, nobody has a flipping clue what's going to happen after COVID. And I think it's all up in the air. But the truth is, if I decided as a sales professional that I want to intimately get involved with my community, just like I was before COVID, and then I still want to sell quite a bit online and I want to sell around the world, I think if you make that decision, you're in the driver's seat, which is really everything that we're talking about when it comes to creating the perfect client, right? If you, as the sales professional, flip the script and you decide, I'm controlling this relationship in the sense that I'm going to help my customers really understand how they could become my perfect customer, not because I just want perfect customers, but by creating the perfect customer, it means I can do more to help them than I can any other customer. So creating perfect customers is better for your customer as it is good for you, but it can't happen for your customer unless you're doing it. So anything that returns or doesn't return after COVID, it's really up to us to decide, because if we want to continue to sell virtually, people will certainly be open to it. I mean, COVID's changed that forever. At the same time, will we want to see people physically? Will we want to connect in person? Absolutely, those things will come back.
Again, you just triggered a thought in my mind that too many people view ICPs and they say, hey, it's my ideal customer profile, as if they're just a rain barrel. They just they just capture the rain. And what we have to be, especially in this COVID world, is be a rainmaker. And you're a rainmaker not only with your ICPs, but also with anybody else. Because I have seen many companies, I've seen many salespeople take a customer, a prospect that lines up a little bit, but you know strategically where they're going. And you know strategically in 6 months or a year, they're going to be that ideal customer for you. So you know what? You want to get them on board because you're going to help lead them to where they become an ICP for you. And chances are, if they're an ICP for you, they're going to see you as incredibly important to them. And I'll argue this, that I see in too many organizations, when you go through and do a customer profit analysis, and this is a deep process, but if you do a customer profit analysis, I see too many times where ICPs are low margin because they've allowed them to get the upper hand with you, the salesperson, you, the sales company. And I want to make sure if I'm doing it right, if I'm really bringing you value and you're a real ICP, then really you're going to be a higher margin customer to me. And there's going to be no problem because you're getting more value from me. And that's fine. That's fine.
You know, honestly, somebody shouldn't be your perfect client unless they're a high margin customer. You can have all the other things that you love about them. They're easy to work with. They love you. They buy their products. They buy your products. They always take your call. But if at the end of the day you're doing that work for nothing, that's not a perfect client.
But how many times do we see companies, selling to customers where they're making zero margin? You know, always argue that 20% of your customers are delivering 80% of your margin. And you can't, you got to make sure that 20% that's delivering 80%, they are in your ICP. And the others are working to become part of your ICP. Otherwise, you don't want them around. Yeah.
Not at all.
Hey, we should probably move into the lightning round. But before we do that, big shout out to Vanilla Soft. Great sponsor of the program. We very much thank you, Daryl Perel. Sales enablement, really at the next level, because what it really allows you to do for all those of you salespeople out there who no longer have trade shows, no longer have that. Boy, Vanilla Soft allows you to very systematically and very logically, and more importantly, opportunistically take advantage of your leads that you're trying to turn into ideal customer profiles. So, hey, reach out to Vanilla Soft, check it out. Great solution. And one final piece, we got to call it, hey, if you got a question, Go out to Sales Logic
Yeah.
Podcast, leave it for us. We may grab it or hit social media and just do hashtag Sales Logic. But now, right now, we got to jump into the lightning round. So the lightning round is, how do I nurture my great customers? Go.
Okay, ideas to nurture your great customers is number one, set yourself up on a schedule to check in with them regularly, at least 4 times a year. You should be doing a check-in call with them, and one of those calls should be a deep dive, just to make sure that you're one step ahead with the products or services that you sell.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because you're not just taking care of them, but you're always trying to say what else is out there. I always say, hey, what am I teaching them on a regular basis? What am I teaching them? I always want to be teaching my great customers. Go.
Yeah, I think to nurture your best customers, you need to send a little business their way. It shouldn't always be about you getting business. You should be helping their business to grow.
And I'm going to add, create additional relationships in that customer. Don't allow yourself to be held hostage by just 1 or 2 people. You may have a great relationship with them, but get to know others.
Yeah, I think that's really good. Work to solve problems that they have that go beyond your business. Position yourself as a resource for everything, so that you are the first person they call about anything, whether it's related to your product or service or not.
Take a look at the customers that they sell to and be looking downstream at least 2 steps. What can you learn? What can you learn about their customers, or their customers' customers? Go all the way downstream. What can you learn? And you can bring back to them. Same way with going upstream. What about their supply chain? What's the added insight information you can bring to them? Totally uncalled for. You're just bringing it to them. But it's a way they become, wow, I'm really impressed with what you delivered to me. One more, Mary, and then we'll kind of close it down.
Okay, I think you should celebrate their anniversary, not the anniversary that they went into business, but the anniversary that they went into business with you. People have a basic need, and that's to be heard, to be remembered, and to be acknowledged. And when you celebrate the very first day that they ever did business with you, and you let them know that you remember it, it is a really unique and innovative way to show that this relationship means a lot to you. And if it means a lot to you, it'll mean a lot to them.
I'll share with you one final one. Send them some books. Send them a book every now and then. Send them a book that means a lot to you. Send it to them, just unannounced. And it's amazing, because what you're doing is you're helping them learn. Sure, it's self-serving. Meredith, I think, has a few good books. I know I got a few good books, but hey, you know what we're talking about. So anyway, hey, we need to kind of start wrapping this up. So I'm going to say thank you for listening to Sales Logic this week. If you like what you hear, subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. If something we've said has earned you a single dollar, consider telling a friend about our show. It's how we grow to help you grow. I'm Mark Hunter.
And I'm Meredith Elliott Powell.
Remember, when you sell with confidence and integrity,
you turn uncertainty to your competitive advantage.
and the sale becomes logical.
Thanks so much. Great show, Mark.
Great sell.